How do we create a future in which both people and nature can thrive? This is the biggest question of our times. In the next few decades, we need to do something unprecedented: achieve a sustainable existence on Earth. But how do we do it? We can start by understanding how we got to this point. 20,000 years ago, humankind consisted of less than 1 million hunter-gatherers across the globe. We lived within the resources on offer, in balance with nature, a strategy that could theoretically last forever. But it wasn't an easy life. Nature determined our survival. We used our unique minds to challenge that reality. We learnt how to tame the wild, get more from the environment. Our population boomed, as did our demands. Every time a new problem arose, we solved it, altering Earth's entire surface in the process. And now we have changed the world so profoundly, scientists have decided that Earth has entered a new phase of its existence. Welcome to the Anthropocene, the age of humans. The tables have turned. We now determine nature's survival. The planet is ours. There's just one problem. We're now totally out of balance with nature. And unless we get our balance back, this age of humans is due to be short-lived. So how do we deal with this problem? When you boil it down, there is one underlying big issue. Our planet is becoming less wild. A species has cleared 3 trillion trees, cultivated half its fertile land, and now fishes across most of the ocean. In the last 50 years, the populations of wild animals have reduced by 60%. We've replaced them with ourselves and our domesticated animals and plants. Today, we and the animals we raise account for 96% of the mass of mammals and 70% of the birds on Earth. There's very little wild left. This biodiversity loss is not just a tragedy, it's the single biggest problem we face. Without biodiversity, the world as we know it doesn't work. Our planet needs its wild spaces. Every one is a component in the global machine. Only if they are all healthy can the planet run smoothly. A less wild world is less able to provide for our needs, less able to maintain dependable weather and seasons, less able to absorb our impact. Biodiversity equals stability, and stability is what we need most of all. Can we turn this situation around? Can we rewild the world? Well, maybe, due to one key change. As societies develop, something is happening that has never happened before. People are having fewer children. Globally, since the year 2000, the number of people under 16 years old has hardly changed. The main reason our population is still rising is because people are living longer. If this continues, our population may finally stop growing by the turn of the century. By investing in education and women's rights and raising people out of poverty, we could bring about peak human even sooner. This changes everything. It gives us the opportunity we need to regain our balance. The plan for our planet is remarkably simple. Reduce our impact by making sure that everything we do, we can do forever. For the biggest gains, we could concentrate our efforts on 4 goals: phasing out fossil fuels and replacing them with renewables. This will not only slow the warming of the planet and the acidification of the ocean, but it will lead to clean air for all of us. Upgrading to efficient food production and reducing our consumption of meat. We'll require far less space to provide for ourselves, leaving more for grasslands, reducing deforestation and our demand for fresh water, and feeding more people with healthier, more affordable food. Working together to properly manage our ocean. A global network of no-fish zones and a treaty on the use of international waters would restore the health of the ocean so it actually produces more fish for us all to eat. Working hard to keep hold of the wild populations we still have, encouraging nature wherever we can. In the ocean, on land we no longer need, and even in our cities. If we make these changes, we'll be a long way to becoming a species in balance with nature once again. We will have taken a remarkable journey, from 1 million people struggling to survive, to several billion living long, healthy lives on a stable planet, able to provide for all our needs. Only at that point will the Anthropocene, the age of humans, be truly underway. At that point, we will be proud to call it our planet. How do we create a future in which both people and nature can thrive? We open our eyes to this moment in history. Think on a planetary scale. Embrace the challenge we face. And do something we humans are very good at. Change the world.
An amazing evening. Greetings to each and everyone on this call. It's so good to have you at the 4th series of the workshop on the Teach4SDG program organized by ADEV Africa. My name is Emmanuel Holaoluwoyo, and I'll be the one moderating today's session. And it's so good to have been engaged with each and every educators all through from the beginning of this program to this present moment. Yeah, you can use the comment section to confirm if you can hear me. And thank you. And I really want to appreciate each and everyone joining across the African countries in this learning program. And we believe that it's going to be of great impact across the countries. But before we move on to this training, we would just like to do something which it's very important for us to do. We know that we've been doing that through the tracking and evaluation form we'll be sharing at the end of each section, but it's also important to hear from the participants directly. We would like to take some feedbacks and how has it been all through the course of the program, starting from the very first workshop series to today. We'd just like to take like 2 to 3 people before we move straight to today's session, as we have our facilitator on this call. Yeah, I don't know if there is anyone that wants to go first. You can just raise your hand, and the admin or the program manager will give you permission to speak. Okay, please, can you grant that Mark access to speak? All right, you can unmute your mic now, Mark. But we'd like to know where you are joining from. You didn't rename your profile. It's also important to rename our profile with our state name first. Then after our state name, or if it's not your state name, if you are joining outside Nigeria, you can rename your profile with your country name. That's very important for us to be able to track the location, to know where you are joining and connecting from, not like to track. So yeah. All right, over to you, Mark. But we'd like to know where you are connecting from.
Yeah, good evening.
All right, good evening, Mr. Mark.
Yeah,
Can hear you.
Yeah, my name is Mark Ogbonna. I'm starting from Katsina State here in Nigeria. I'm a teacher by profession. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah. So for the program, it has been educative and interesting. At least I have learned a lot, especially yesterday's speaker, Dr. I think he spoke well, and I learned on how to make the environment lively. And in the issue of the climate change, I've now known that the ladder which we normally feel that is a big deal is also one of the factors affecting our environment today. And also the automobile, the vehicle, which we see and feel that is all and all. I have now known that the automobile is also one of the factors that's also made our environment today what we are gramming and believing God for perfection, and also. And
absolutely.
And the area of this, and it is my earnest desire that this program will not just end like that, but I think that from time to time, and this trend is a very good one. At least I have learned to also educate to my students in school. One of the causes of the climate change and how to enforce and make it bearable, make it livable for the world at large.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Mr. Mike. That's a good testimonial from your end. We'd just like to have Benjamin from Lagos. You can unmute your mic and speak, but please kindly make it very brief. In let's say in a minute, we just like to take. Then we can take 2 more people after Benjamin. All right, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Benjamin. We can hear you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel, for the privilege to speak today. Thank you for the initiative. The program is actually a mind-blowing and eye-opening program. I've been working on the SDGs for a while, and you just succeeded in increasing my zeal and my passion for the SDGs. I was so impressed the day the second speaker spoke, Dr. The second speaker, the lady, I have forgotten her name, but I have her name in my jotings.
Dr. Agama.
Very good. That woman is a smart lecturer. I would love to be connected to that woman and know more about her. I was so thrilled with her lectures. And yesterday, the speaker that also spoke. But what I just wanted to contribute on the day I raised my hand for the first day, but I was not given the opportunity to speak, was that this program should, we have spoken more on this, but I still want to re-emphasize that please take this thing down to the schools. Take it down to the school. Maybe when next you organize, the head of schools should be involved. Hello?
Yes, we are with
yes,
you.
the head of schools should be involved. And what is the reason? The reason is that when some of us are doing these things in our schools, some people will think you just want people to notice you, notice me. They think you are doing the extraordinary, and they think you just want to show up. But if you bring this into school, and maybe every school have this as a seminar, that when you are doing it, somebody will not think you are just trying to show up, but like it will be like a teamwork. Lastly, on the second day of this seminar, a speaker from Lagos said something that we should have SDG clubs. So if we can have these clubs, it will be an avenue where we can preach or evangelize the SDGs.
Awesome.
And lastly, before I drop the mic, I was not pleased the way you were picking people to ask questions on the other day. You were picking from states, Lagos State, like Lagos, we are so much on this group. I was thinking you can, those that want to ask questions, you can go on the participants column and screenshot those that raise their hands first. Are we good? Maybe
okay,
the
thank
first
you very much,
people,
Mr. Benjamin.
They'll ask some questions instead of picking from states randomly.
Okay,
thank you. God bless you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that wonderful feedback. We are glad to hear you, and we are so happy that it's been a great impact across board. And each and every point you stated has been. Kindly mute your mic. We believe that each and every point you make here are being noted by the program managers and also will be forwarded to the management for further review. And I can assure you that these are things that are already in place. Okay, I just want to take two more, and I want to seek the indulgence of our facilitator for today. We know that we are supposed to have started, but we just like to take two more. Okay, can we take Aminu from Aminu from Castina, you can unmute your mic, please. We can hear you. Hello. Okay, if Aminu is not there, can we take Balarabi? Apologies if I mispronounced your name. Can we have Balarabi? Or Nafi, you can unmute your mic if you are there. Nafi, you
Hello.
can.
Hello.
Okay,
Hello.
you can click on.
Hello, good
Okay.
evening, sir.
All right. Good evening, Nafi. We can hear you.
How is work going, sir?
Yeah, going well. We just like to have your feedback in a minute. How's been the program?
Yes, it has been
What are the meetings you have?
It has been interesting and impactful. Though we had meetings with our head of school. I teach in Katsina State, Federal Science and Technical College. Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. So I'm in a federal school. So we attended a meeting. So I spoke on SDGs. Since we are starting for the first time, I've worked with MDGs. So we are starting for the first time. So I want to know steps to take to start an SDG club, though I've introduced to our head, the principal of our school, that I'm going to start an SDG club. And I want to know the steps to follow and how to incorporate SDG into our curriculum, the school curriculum.
Okay, thank you very much, Nafi. And these are great move you've made. And yeah, this has to do in line to the SDG activation and integration to the school system. Yeah, that's exactly the second phase of this project after the workshop series. And definitely there is going to be more update on that next week. Without taking much of our time, and I think we've already spent like 20 minutes. Sorry, we are still going to take more feedbacks, but that will be after the masterclass session. We would like to have our facilitator to start today's session right away. And we just like to present his citation before he commences today's workshop.
Bola Hong is the founder and CEO of the Engage Youth Africa Initiative, a not-for-profit Pan-African youth-led organization whose primary focus is leading youths in local communities in Africa to take climate actions, drive climate change solutions and initiatives, and empower youths in communities to be change makers. He is an organization member of United Nations Sustainable Development Solution Network, UNSDSN, and a volunteer with United Nations Environment Program, UNEP. He is also the managing director of Casting Crown Co., one of the leading green building consulting and contracting companies and environmental sustainability practitioners in Nigeria and Ghana. He is a versatile architect whose experiences in green building solutions, environmental sustainability, management span across over 15 years. He is a fellow member of the Institute of Management Consultants, Nigeria, fellow member of Chartered Institute of Contract, Projects and Facilities Management, member of Green Building Council, Nigeria, member of International Facility Management Association, Nigeria, and member of Institutes of Professional Managers and Administrators. He is the current Vice President, Membership and Outreach of Project Management Institute Nigeria chapter, and the President of International EdTech Association at Quantic School of Business and Technology, Washington, D.C., USA. He is also an appointed member of Research and Development Team of Green Building Council, Nigeria. Please let's make welcome architect Bola Pearl Oyelaki as he leads the session, Green Economy and Environmental Sustainability.
Thank you very much. We are glad to have you on this call this evening, Architect Bola. We'd just like to, without further ado, would like to hand it over to you as you lead the session on green economy and environmental sustainability. Good evening, Architect Bola.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good evening, facilitators and organizers of this event. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm trying to, sorry, do I have the permit to share my screen?
Yes, you do.
Okay. I can see now. Okay, can we see my screen?
Still loading. Hopefully it should pop up fully shortly. Okay, perfectly. We have it now.
Okay, thank you. So once again, good evening, everyone. I'm aware you're all connecting from different parts of Nigeria. So it's a privilege to be here with us in this training. I hope that you're going to learn more about green economy and environmental sustainability, from this session today. So I will crave your indulgence, to probably pick your pen and jotter so that as we move on through the slides that I'm going to take us through, if you have any question, you can make use of the chat box, or you can just put them down at the Q&A session. I'll be able to entertain your questions. Okay, so without any further introduction, let me just go deep into what I want to present to us. So we are green economy and environmental sustainability. This is one of my core competencies, is one of my passion, is one of the things I do. Okay, I teach, I speak, I practice sustainability. So what we're looking at, the aspect of sustainability that we're looking at today has to do with the environment, as it connects or relates with the green economy. So I'm hoping that by the end of the session today, part of what you are going to be learning, just a minute. I don't know why this thing is not moving. Just a minute, please. Okay, so the learning objectives that I'm hoping that will be the outcome of this session is to refresh our mind about sustainable development goals, SDGs. I'm not going to spend more time about that because I believe by now all of us had already acquainted ourselves with what SDGs are. Then also to understand the meaning of green economy and environmental sustainability, because within the context of the definitions to this concept, there's a context of the definition that we must underscore in order for us to be able to understand what it really entails. So within the meaning, within the context of the definition we are going to, give and evaluate today, you will understand the concept of green economy and the concept of environmental sustainability. Also, we are going to be looking at the main sectors that are involved in green economy. We'll also delve into the different components of green economy and environmental sustainability. And then we'll finally look at what are the actions as teachers, as tutors, as trainers, what are the actions that we can take and also encourage our pupils or our wards to take as regards ensuring environmental sustainability. Okay, so starting with the definitions, first of all, I want us to understand that the two phrases that we are looking at, the green economy, the environmental sustainability, they are concepts. Okay, they are concepts. So at these definitions, we are looking at them with a beam of light from concepts. Okay, so starting with green economy, the concept of green economy, just from the word economy, that means it's closely related to any activity that will be performed within an economic environment or economic framework. So a green economy is also a framework that captures the lowering of carbon emissions or carbon footprints within a location. So that location can be at the small scale, at the medium scale, at the large scale, purposely to project resource efficiency and to make the location or the environment to be socially inclusive. I take time not just to mention these words, but just to emphasize them with further adjectives so that we'll be able to understand what it means. Starting with the issue of low carbon emission, we all know about the green gas effect and all of that. Why, we are pushing through the SDGs about the issue of reduction of carbon footprint in the world, talking about the effect of climate change. So the concept of green economy is to push forward this agenda, okay, to ensure that we have experiences of low carbon emission within our environment, and also to improve resource efficiency so that we can, at the end of the day, ensure social inclusion. Okay, so these three things must be underscored anytime you are defining green economy. Any activity that happens within any economic setting that involves low carbon drive, that involves resource efficiency, that involves social inclusion, that is what green economy is in the simple terms. It is also a concept that is driven not just only in the public sector. In fact, there are some companies and organizations now who assess green economy funds for them to be able to, push their business objectives. So you have the economic plan and economic agenda that releases funds and supports grants that support, business activities both in the private and the public sector. Interestingly, some of our government institutions also assess these global economic funds, called green economic funds, in order to make some level of investment within the economic environment. And the whole concept, like I said, underscoring with those three words, is simply to reduce the carbon emission, to eliminate the way we pollute our environment, and also to enhance energy efficiency and resource efficiency. So these are things that you will see anytime we are having a discourse or we are conversing concerning green economy. The other aspect of green economy also has to do with, the elimination of the losses that we usually encounter when it comes to our relationship with our ecosystem. Now I'm going into biology. I know that we all know what we call biodiversity because humans live within an environment and interact within an environment. And that is why we say that we are social animals. Okay, as biologically, human relationship with the environment is defined to be a symbiotic relationship whereby our activities rather would impact negatively or positively the environment, and vice versa as well. So in order to ensure that there is an effective symbiotic relationship within the environment, the concept of green economy was developed. And also is just to push further the agenda about climate change actions that need to be taken. Because I remember, when the narratives about the policies about climate change, began, there are still a lot of countries in the world who have not adopted climate change. Some still believe that climate change is an initiative of the United States or Europe, and they just want to use it as an opportunity again to colonize the world. Just as we have currently, there are a lot of people who still don't believe that COVID-19 exists. So to debunk all these misgivings, okay, there is a need for us to prevent the loss of biodiversity, to ensure that we retain sanity within our environment so that there will be positive interaction of humans within the environment. So all of these activities are coined within the concept of green economy. And what really is the aim of green economy? It is simply to ensure sustainable development and growth, to ensure inter and intra-generational equity, or to drive equality. I talked about social inclusion the other time. So when you look within the frames of the 17 SDGs, all of these things are captured there. So to drive the fulfillment of, ensuring equity in all ramifications, and even gender equality, to reduce to the barest minimum, if not to totally eradicate poverty within the community or society where human lives. These are the things that, forms the basis of the necessity for developing the concept of green economy. And all of these I've been explaining to you are what the policies of the United Nations Environment Program, which I am one of the volunteers, are developed as policies and been adopted across the different member bodies of United Nations. So of course, our country is one of the United Nations members. So it is something that we need to embrace at all levels. I'm so particular and so interested in the fact that, we are already taking this conversation to the level of education. We're not just talking at the level of business. We're not just talking within the marketplace. We're now talking at the level of education, which is one of the very important foundation to growing and developing a country. So education is something which we all know that is the bedrock of every form of development. So this has to be contextualized within the process of educating humans. Okay, let's look at other definitions. You know, the focus of green economy is to ensure that all the risks that are associated with our interaction with the environment are reduced to the barest minimum or totally eradicated. You are talking about ecological risk. We are talking about even the risk of pollution. You're talking about the risk of contamination. We're talking about the risk of deforestation. All of these risks are what green economy concept deals with. So the focus of green economy and its activity is to ensure that proper frameworks are put in place to take care of all these, pertinent risks which are inherent in human activities and interaction with the environment, while also ensuring sustainable development at all stratas of economy. When you go into Wikipedia, this is what you will see there. And the last definition I would like us to also project about green economy talks about, was developed as a concept by a sociology group. Is also one of the climate change action groups in the world, and they are very prominent in their conversations and their narratives and submissions about green economy. Their own definition talks about also, reduction of carbon emissions, low carbon, improving on the resource efficiency. That's the way we deploy resources, to achieve values and to drive the value streams within the project economy, and of course talk about social inclusion in all forms of economy. And the focus of this, again, as emphasized by them, is to ensure that risks are taken out of the equation. Okay, we zero off risk, environmental risk, and then we ensure that there is sustainable development. So you see the consistency in all of these variances of definition. That is what I projected to. 3 of these definitions by UNEP and also by Wikipedia, which is accessible to all of us, and also by a social group called Sociology Group, who takes and pioneer actions on climate change. Okay, let's go to look at environmental sustainability. What is the meaning of environmental sustainability? Let me quickly mention that the whole concept, when we're talking about environmental sustainability, you have to look at it holistically from the concept of sustainability, because environmental sustainability is just one of the themes, one of the 3. Sustainability has tripods. Is tripartite in nature. It has 3 nature. It has 3 parts. We talk about the economic part, we talk about the environmental part, and we talk about the sociological part. And each of this part also can be broken down into relatable forms. But the one we are focusing on has to do with the environment, the environmental sustainability. How do we ensure that the environment and human interaction within the environment, has the capacity and the ability to maintain balance across board? Everywhere you turn to on planet Earth, regardless of the region or the time differences and all of that, we ensure that there is balance in the ecosystem. Is what environmental sustainability is all about. And it requires conscious, fundamental actions of human beings. Earlier on today, I was in a meeting where, we're talking about human resource management. I realized again that human beings are the most difficult set of elements or entities in all of creation to deal with and to manage. And that is just the honest truth. Okay, when you look at all of the frames of life, the entity or the element that is most difficult, most irrational according to economics, most illogical according to philosophy, that can be managed, they are human beings. So how do we curtail the actions, the dispositions of humans within a location, within an environment, in such a way that we maintain balance? Is what environmental sustainability suggests as a concept. And then you can now begin to look at the different actions within the concept, which are part of what we are going to be discussing as we move on. So the responsibility of the environment itself to ensure that there is a balance, to ensure protection of the environment, to ensure that the ecosystem is sane and sound, and it supports human health, it supports the sustenance or the sustainability of living things. Our ecosystem is made up of living things and non-living things, but our focus is basically, when you're talking about environmental stability, our focus is basically more on the living things components of the environment. So how do we ensure the sustainability, or how do we ensure and support the existence of humans within his environment, in terms of his health, his well-being, his wellness, not just only for now, also, putting into consideration the future, because the whole concept of sustainability is not just about now. It's not just the actions about now. It's the action that are taken now, that is not hindering the potential of the future generation to take their own action and ensure a sustainable future, is what sustainability is all about. And all of this put together is what environmental sustainability projects to us. It's interesting that what we do every day in our interactions as we live as a social animal, in one way or the other involves environmental sustainability, consciously or unconsciously. And that's important. One of the reasons why this kind of session is very, very important, because what you don't know, you don't know. When you know something, you'll be able to teach and direct other people who are within your field of influence. Now talking about your students and pupils, you can teach them and help them to also begin to develop behaviors that are consistent, behaviors that are consistent with the maintenance of this kind of balance that we are defining. Okay, let's look at another definition. The previous one I explained, is a definition that was coined from Sfera. Sfera is one of the leading, world-leading sustainability practitioners in the world. So let's look at one of the schools of sustainability in the world, Stanford in US. They defined environmental sustainability as the process of managing and protecting the Earth's natural resources, okay? And also ensuring that we have balance within the ecosystem, talking about climate and the atmospheric conditions and all of that, in such a way that the current generations and future generations, okay, have a meeting point of ensuring they maintain a decent life. When you begin to look at some of the elements that makes up the narratives on sustainability, we talk about the pollution rate, the air quality and all of that, across the world, including Nigeria, including the cities in Nigeria where we all live in, by the time you begin to delve into individual of this, if care is not taken, if these concepts are not fully embraced, the truth of the matter is we may not have a future. The future generation may not survive. So there have to be conscious efforts that need to be taken right from education, at the education level in all our citadel of learning, and into the marketplaces where most of these actions are to be taken. We should get to a point whereby this thing becomes a daily practice, become a life, become a living for us. And that's how we can become socially responsible, can become human. We can become responsible as human beings in our relationship with our society. So there are many species. I'm sure that you know about the biodiversity and the extinction of the number of living things on Earth. Talk about there are millions who are going extinct singularly because of the actions of our actions and inactions as human beings. So we need to begin to speak to ourselves, begin to teach our children, begin to speak to our students on how to embrace, the positive concept of environmental sustainability. So this is one of the things that the School of Sustainability in Stanford has put together for us. So when we are talking about green economy, we are not talking about a colored economy. We are talking about a responsible economy that is targeted towards sustainable development and growth of a community, and ensuring the balance and the process by which humans manage and protect the earth through all their activities. I hope we are all following. So I want to try to create a nexus between these two concepts, the green economy and also environmental sustainability, because they are neatly connected. They are not dissociated. Okay, so when you are talking about green economy, it is that path of the economic system that focuses on environmental sustainability. That is what, that is how these two are connected, meaning that there is no environmental sustainability, no effective accomplishment or achievement of the objective of environmental sustainability except there is success of green economy, and vice versa. A green economy that is not focused on ensuring the fulfillment of environmental sustainability is not a green economy. All the money, all the finances, the funding, the activities in the economy that is targeted towards achieving the goals, the 17 goals of SDGs. That is what green economy is all about. And then it also seeks, to create that level, high level of independence, where, we are talking about zero poverty. Every human has the audacity. Why some people misbehave, why some people don't have the right comportment and disposition to life to be responsible to the environment, giving untold excuses, 1001 excuses. People will tell you they have 1001 excuses why they need to misbehave, why they need to be nonchalant, why they need to be irresponsible, simply because of poverty. And we all know that an hungry man is a hungry man. Some people can just act irrationally simply because they are hungry. So when you have an economic system that ensures, developing human capacity, developing human disposition, positive disposition to be responsible, environmentally responsible, that is what this connection is all about. And that support system or the framework within our economic system that ensures this is what green economy is all about. Okay. So what are the things that are entailed in this green economy? I project this so that you will see that there is a strong narrative and effort coming from UNEP, that's United Nations Environment Protection, Program. There are a lot of policies, there are a lot of frameworks that they've been able to develop. There are a lot of research that has been done from this subsidiary of United Nations. And what they keep, disposing, what they keep talking about is, as the world advances, as the world develops, as the world evolves and revolves, because there are evolutions and there are revolutions, there are inventions. Now we are talking about inventions in technology, advancement of technology and all of that. With all of these activities, human activities, okay, there are ways by which we can create efficiency to them. There are ways by which we can create necessary efficiency so that through those conscious effort of creating efficiency, we can ensure fairness, because there is no fairness when humans are enjoying and the environment is suffering. Inadvertently, or indirectly, what we are doing is we are also suffering human beings, because when the environment suffers, humans suffers. So how do we ensure that the environment doesn't suffer through activities of human beings, in order for human in the long run not to also see the repercussion? Because everything happening to us as humans today, either from the perspective of health failure or the perspective of economic breakdown, or from the perspective of psychological dissociation or sociological misbalance and misgivings, is as a result of the unfairness, imbalances that have been created within the ecosystem. That's human beings relating with the environment. So we need to ensure that there is a strong narrative, there are strong arguments put forward there. So when you're engaging with your students in school, these are some of the things that you need to find out. These are some of the things that you need to make them to understand at that level, because they are the ones that will turn out to move into the society where they can also take responsibilities, right? And before we go into looking at other things, let me still project further, because having a strong foundation, okay, having a strong foundation for what these concepts are all about will help us to know our position and the areas where we need to really position ourselves. So, the concept of green economy requires different frameworks and different policies, which will enable the achievement of the objectives of the concept, either the green economy or the relationship of the green economy with the environmental sustainability. Those frameworks are some of the things that we need to evaluate and see whether there's a need for modification, there's a need for other new adoptions, other new introductions, which are probably locations based or location sensitive, or which are, probably might even be socially sensitive, to the way we are going to adopt some of these things. Let me just quickly talk to us about, some of these sectors, because we will appreciate more about the frameworks from the sector perspective. We have about 7 to about 10, but for the sake of this session, I'm going to be talking to us about 7, which had been projected by United Nations Environment Program in 2016. They developed these 7 frames for the sectors, 7 critical sectors that have been seen as being central to the accomplishment of the concept of green economy. The first one talks about clean technologies. I can take the rest of the day to talk to us about technology, because this is also one of the areas which I've created a niche for. Technology and its advancements, are necessarily meant to cause some level of disruption to the way humans interact with the environment. Before now, before the advent of this immersive technology, because that is the peculiarity of the technologies we have nowadays. I mean, technology has always been there, even before it was introduced to us in Africa. I mean, you have technologies. You know, recently I was studying about the history of robotics, and I realized that robotics has been way back, you know, during the Egyptian civilization, you know, in the early 100th centuries. I mean, these technologies has always been there. So it's not as if technologies are really new as such. And that is why in sustainability, we say to ourselves that any invention is not new invention as such, because they are new because we are just seeing them and we are just, you know, relating with them in these current times. You know, the same thing, future generations, when they see this kind of improvements, and that's what I called invention, improvement on what is already existing to create a new experience. So the current technologies that we are interacting with now is just redefining experience for us. That's the focus of the technology. Talk about AI, talk about metaverse, talk about Web3, talk about blockchain technology. All of these are just redefining user experiences for us. And that is the focus. And when you're talking about user experience, we are talking about human beings. Not living things are not the ones using technology. You know, even not I mean, the major or the main part of the ecosystem that use technology are human beings. So how do you define human experience in the use of technology? Is what we consider to be a clean technology, not the kind of technology that humans are using that in the long run will hamper or destroy the environment. And I can give you several examples of the kind of technologies that people would use, you know, that will impact the environment. Look at the inventions about weapons and artilleries. You talk about weapons of mass destruction, ballistic missiles and all of that. You know, I mean, we could see some of these things already at play between the wars in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia and all of that. You know, we see how they're using drones to launch missiles, to destroy places. All of these things have, all the places that they've launched missiles, if they have not even been using biological weapons, in the long run, will not just only affect human living, will also affect the environment negatively. So as good as technologies are, we need to ensure that there's proper regulation in the development and the use of this technology. And that is why you see recently, there are a lot of conversations, even from developed economies. I mean, just 2 days ago, the United States President of Joe Biden, came out to the public to mention about the need for them to begin to regulate, you know, consciously the use of technology and how technologies are being adopted, you know, so that these things are properly put within the frames of acceptable norms. You know, if care is not taken, if they are not, you know, technology would turn the whole world and probably maybe even bring the end of the world so close. And that is why they're saying that the next world war might be a war of technology. So let me close it there. So talking about clean technology is one of the things that green economy supports, and is one of the fulcrum, is one of the main pillar that projects green economy. In a short word, there is no green economy where there is no technology. So when you're talking about green economy, is an economy that is technology based. It's an economy that is technology based. So if in your school you have not been introducing modern technology to your students, now clean technology, talk about artificial intelligence, metaverse, these are things that they are going to be relating with now. ChatGPT, you know, this morning I posted something on my LinkedIn page telling people why we need to start adopting all these new AI tools and all of that to enhance resource efficiency and also to ensure productivity and effectiveness to human activities. You know, I remember in the 1988, there was a major global protest by some teachers, mathematics teachers in US, UK, you know, against the use of calculators. This happened for the next 20 years thereabout. I don't know whether it's still happening in our schools, that we don't allow students to use calculator, we don't allow them to use math set, some other mathematical tools like formula table and all. I mean, all of this, even in chemistry, they don't allow chemical reaction tables to be used and all of. I mean, technology has displaced all of this. It has disrupted the learning process. Now we are talking about didactic system of learning. We are talking about pedagogy system of learning, you know, where people deploy technology, you know, at the comfort of your homes. You know, we all benefit from learning processes. I mean, things are changing. The world is revolving, and we need to start introducing this, disposing this student to them so that they don't learn it in a hard way. Because when people learn in a hard way, that's when they begin to use the purpose or the objective of those things in the wrong, with the wrong tool. If people learn more about how to handle gun and what the importance of gun is, when people see gun, they will not misbehave with gun. If people learn the importance of what money is a tool. If they learn what money is meant for, by the time they are disposed to hold money or put in the position to handle money, they will not misbehave with money. But when you don't teach people, when they are put in the position, they will misbehave naturally. That is human behavior, and that's why human beings are illogical, according to the father of economics, Adam Smith. Let me go to the other one. It talks about water services. Water services basically projects, the way we use water. I mean, reducing water consumption, conserving water. There's something in architecture that we call, it's landscape architecture, we call xeriscape. How do we ensure, xeriscape is a concept of minimizing or reducing water wastage in use. When you're interacting with the environment, because we learn, there are some places on Earth currently that does not even experience rainfall every year. How do they survive? Here on planet Earth, not in Jupiter, not in Mars. How do they survive? So because we have, like Lagos is surrounded with water body. Nigeria even have 2 confluences of rivers that pass through them, and we are surrounded with oceans. Continental oceans. We have Indian Ocean, or is it main Atlantic Ocean that surrounds most of our cities and all of. We are disposed to water. So by nature, human being will be wasteful. Will be wasteful. You go different places in Nigeria, you see people, almost every home has their own borehole. All these human activities are necessarily disrupting, creating imbalances in the ecosystem. So if you are talking about one of the pillars of green economy, is to ensure that we support, consciously support the right usage, minimal usage of water, conservative way of using water. That is what water services is all about. So what you don't need is not supplied. What you need is what is supplied, and what is supplied that you use, you can always reuse. Okay, I will talk about this concept, the 3 Hows when it comes to management, waste management. Okay, so you have to have that consciousness. We need to let our students know that even right there in our school, all the ways by which we can help them to consciously develop the attitude towards conserving water usage and maintaining judicious and responsible usage of water is what water services is all about. About renewable energies, we all know the impact of non-renewable energy, in the world. How carbon, most of the carbon emissions, close to about 30-something%. Most of the carbon emissions in the world are currently as a result of the activities in the construction industry, of which some of these energies are part of what happened in the construction industry. But generally, energy use itself is one of the major ways by which carbon is being emitted into our environment, into the atmosphere, that causes the greenhouse effect that results into the ozone layer depletion. So how do we ensure that this is curtailed? Is through the use of and the encouragement of the use of renewable energy. So that is what green economy does. Green economy supports only the use of renewable energy. And what are the examples of renewable energy? We have the solar power system, we have the thermal, we have the wind turbine system. Any energy system that will not emit carbon, or that will, at the barest minimum, emit carbon, is what we call renewable energy. And of course, from the word renewable, it means that you can recycle it, you can reuse it, and you can reform it, as it were, and converting, the natural energy into human use is what renewable energy is. Solar, the sun radiation and insulation, the energy that is gotten from activity within the head crust and all of this. These are energy that we can convert into uses for human purpose. So these things are naturally occurring. So it doesn't require humans, distorting or carrying out any activity. That they are even called clean energy. That's another way to call renewable energy. They are called clean energy. The activities are clean, and they are recyclable in such a way that it doesn't affect the environment. So that is one of the major concepts too. So some of our schools can adopt this. There are certain energy supply in our schools that we can consider the use of solar panels. And about sustainability, talking about sustainability now, the initial cost of implementation of some of these things might be a little bit higher than the traditional cost of implementing them or the conventional cost of implementing them. But where the effectiveness and resource efficiency comes in is in the operation. So the operational cost, which we call OPEX, CAPEX and OPEX. The CAPEX may increase, but the OPEX will be zero. So you have what we call zero energy, meaning that you are totally off grid. You don't depend on Nigerian power system. You always have power, and you are not spending, you are spending little or nothing for you to maintain the use of energy. I mean, these are things that we need to embrace. Developed economies are already embracing it. Recently, Buhari, as one of his parting gifts, signed into law the climate change policy that is targeted towards achievement by 2060/2070, thereabouts. I mean, new government will come, they might decide to review it, thereabout. That's not even the narrative for this session. But what I'm saying is we need to start driving it at this level, at the education level, where we are impacting students, because they are the ones that will take this knowledge and experiences into action and fly with it everywhere they go. The other one talks about transport. Interestingly, Lagos State just before the close of this week, in partnership with Owando, procured a sizable number of electric vehicle buses. I mean, the first set that we'll see in Nigeria, vehicles powered by batteries. These are things that green economy is all about. I'm sure by the time we begin to look deep into that, you will see that Owando has a green economy policy within the organization where they're able to assess that funds, and then support, in partnership with the state government in Lagos State, support the procurement of those buses. Because when you look at the cost of each of the buses was put to almost about over 200 million naira, so, but the overall cost in use is like zero. You don't need to start, at least for the next 5 to 10 years, nothing like you are going to mechanic to go and check engine, to check this. So the cost of operating the vehicle is like zero. Is like zero. So these are some of the things that green economy project, and we can, at least at the barest minimum, begin to introduce some of this so that as we are teaching our students to be innovative, they can start creating the consciousness of their innovation or creativity towards the green economy and what it entails within all these sectors. The other one talks about green building. This is also one of my area of practice. I'm currently a green building expert and ED faculty to be precise. So we have different buildings here in Nigeria who are also certified to be green buildings. And what does green building means? They are buildings that have element of sustainability in them, element of environmental sustainability in them. Talk about, like according to World Bank system, they call it IFC Edge Building System. It's called EDGE, EDGE. According to that particular green building system, you must have water efficiency, you must have embodied energy efficiency, and you must also have energy efficiency. Those three concepts must be attained and achieved to the minimum of 20%. You have 20% energy efficiency, 20% water conservation efficiency. You also have 20% of embodied energy use in that building from design to completion. That is what green building is all about. So when you go to some places, homes, residential homes, or commercial or public spaces that are automated using smart technology or deployment of some robotics into there, where when you enter, you see that it's a smart light system. Once you move out there, it's sensitive to daylighting. These are all the things that green economy supports. So a number of us are already, assessing for some of our projects, we're assessing green economic funds, to execute green buildings in Nigeria. I know of 1 or 2 schools in Abuja that are already green building certified. And I'm also currently working on one of the schools in Lagos, public school in Lagos, to be certified as green building. These are things that we can begin to form as narratives. And the second to the last one talks about sustainable agriculture and forest. Again, these activities of human beings, agricultural activities, in terms of deforestation, in terms of farming system, all of these activities must be sustainable. They should not be activities that will affect negatively, the environment, where people will cut trees and never plant back, where people, the kind of chemical they make use of, I mean, the kind of fertilizers they use in agricultural production and all of that are part of what need to be critically looked into. And I'm so happy because technology is helping in redeveloping all these systems. You know, we are using technology now to determine, the kind of agricultural system that needs to be done within different locations. Okay, and there's even something we call the vertical farming. You know, you don't necessarily have to develop agricultural system. You don't even have to use even the environment. You can have them within a controlled environment. Like we talk about even open grazing, banning them, policies about open grazing being. I mean, ranching is one of the sustainable agricultural systems that need to be preached of a necessity. So if Nigeria is serious about sustainable agriculture, I mean, it is not negotiable. It is not a conversation that needs to be fought over concerning open grazing, because these are activities that impact the environment. I mean, just imagine you waking up early in the morning and you move around, you see, I mean, animals that defecated and destroyed all your environment. I mean, you have to forcefully, talking about resource efficiency now, you have to spend a lot of money to clean up the environment. Whereas if you put them within a location, you can monitor the growth and the productivity of such animal, and also improve on the technology that will maintain their the ecosystem balance. I mean, it will ensure their health, and it will also ensure their proper growth. I mean, these are some of the things that we need to begin to educate, from this level of education process. And then by the time we move into higher level of leadership in the education system, people will begin to accept this concept. And the last one talks about waste management. I mean, waste management encapsulates all of this, because when you look at all of these sectors, there is no way you not talk about wastage. So deploying lean system in all of this sector is one of the things that waste management talks about. How do you eliminate waste, or how do you reduce waste? In terms of the way we conserve water, in terms of the way we use technology, there are some technologies that we even spend our resources on, talk about resource efficiency, that we don't use, we don't need. Some, they have 10 phones, and all of the phones are not even productive phones. And people keep spending money in acquiring them. So they have, I mean, you go to some schools, they say they have an ICT lab, and the lab, all the things are there and are even archaic, or what they are teaching. I mean, so we are talking about how to ensure that we reduce wastage. What we need not to spend money on, we don't need to spend money on. The things we need to spend money on, we judicially spend money on them. And I keep telling people, don't tell me that this is the only way things can be done. That is a traditional, rudimental, and conventional way of thinking. In green economy, you have to think outside the box. There is no one way to do things. There are several other ways, but the best way is usually the one that solves problem effectively, and the one that is resource efficiency. That's what this sector is all about. Projecting further, I talked about framework earlier on. All of these sectors, within them, they have different frameworks that makes them function effectively. When you go into the energy sector, you have a lot of policies that all the players within that sector need to abide by, or need to use to develop their own objective plans and activities and all of that. The same thing within the green building industry. We have the construction industry, we have the civil engineering industry. We also have policies, we have frameworks, and all of these need to be understood. I'm making this narrative emphatically because even at the lower level of our education system, we need to start teaching students, we need to start teaching our pupils how to embrace all this knowledge, how to understand these things, so that as they are growing, when they see the ones that are not compliant, in 2000, when we're moving from 1999 to 2000, everybody was talking about compliance with technology. It was then that the era of internet came about. Now we have been moving away from the traditional forms of internet to metaverse, because metaverse is the future of internet, where people will interact and relate in 3D, in 4D, in 6D, in 7D. I won't go deep into that. So, we need to all understand what are the different frameworks that have been developed, acceptable policies that have been developed, which form the basis of the performance and judgment of all the activities within this industry. These are things that we need to start teaching our students. And when we don't know it, we can't teach. But when we know it, even from our actions, I could hear some people already making a case for establishing clubs in the different schools. From those schools, from the level of the club, we can begin to help the student embrace this knowledge. Okay, so let me quickly talk about the different areas of the green economy, the different areas where we can relate with the green economy. I mean, there is no one that would not naturally not find one relevance in one way or the other, if not in multiple of these things. And currently, if we look deep into all of this, when we understand them, you see that you're already functioning in one or two areas. It's just like we need to understand it better and then position ourselves for productivity. You know, look at all the things we have been talking about sustainability. Life now is all about sustainability because we are living in the project economy where everything is projectized. This training or this session that began a few weeks ago started as a project and it has an end date. Okay, this particular session too is a project, has a start time and an end date. You know, so how do you ensure that values are delivered? How do you ensure that you inculcate the necessary knowledge and all of that? I mean, this is what green economy is all about, talking about productivity, talking about, achievement of benefit of values, from every activity within the economy is what green economy entails. So, I mean, judicious pricing of things, you don't take advantage of people. We are fond of doing that in Africa. When we see situations, just like anytime there is fuel scarcity, people always take advantage and they just hike price. Some will even begin to hoard the availability of the fuel. I mean, we need to start teaching everyone about the sense of fairness. Remember when I was defining green economy at the outset from UNEP perspective, fairness must be driven. And there is no way you talk about fairness in economy without introducing integrity and honesty. These are things, these are characters, these are dispositions, these are elements missing in our policies in Nigeria that we need to begin to teach people. So, I mean, you need to let your student know, I mean, as you are learning today, that they need to develop character that is towards fairness. And we must have a reward system, for those within our community or society, in our schools, that embrace this attitude. Students that are fair, students that are honest, that have high integrity. We need to encourage them so that they become ambassadors and, examples that others can emulate. I mean, practicing that, we're already seeing that people are working within green economy. Time will not permit me to talk others. I will try and make this slide available so that we can all take time to also go over it again, because there's so much that can be spoken about each of these aspects of the green economy. Okay, so let me now go, because I need to quickly round up now so that I can take questions. Let me talk about actions that we can take. I will talk about this in two ways. Actions that are already established. That's why I say they are action focused. So they're already established. There are things that are happening within the economic system. I mean, according to the economic help prospect. So these are already established. Looking at within the energy sector, we have that strong conversation that there must be energy transition. Initially, they were talking about energy mix, where you have an hybrid of non-renewable and renewable. But now, it's no longer about energy mix. It's about transitioning. And that's why I'm happy that Nigeria is also gaining the momentum. We are not there yet, and it's painful. For many of us who are practicing in the industry, it's painful that Nigeria is not embracing it. It took us this long. It took this current government over, about 8 years for them to fully adopt. And even in adopting it, I could still read a lot of flaws in the 2060 plan that they've seen. But it's a decision in the right direction. We'll refine it until we get it better. And thanks to some of the state governors and some leaders in politics who are already taking actions, like I mentioned about Lagos State, who has acquired EV vehicles. And before you know what is happening, they're already establishing renewable energy stations around town, where individuals can now also go ahead to go and acquire electric vehicle. Like I keep telling my family, I'm just waiting to ensure that we have, recharging points around in town. I would definitely go and buy an electric vehicle, because this is what I teach, this is what I preach. I cannot continue to use a fossil fuel car. It's more about a personal decision, more about, it's good if there are policies that undergird human behaviors, but most of these actions are personal. We should take them personal and teach everyone within our influence to take it personal. They are personal responsibilities that we must take. The other one is about health. I mean, how can we talk more about health other than being responsible? I mean, we must begin to teach our students how to take ownership of their health and well-being. It's good that they have parents, they have words, they have people that take care of them. But as you and I, because whether they like it or not, they also transit into a point whereby they become responsible to their life. They shouldn't wait until when they are 18 years old, according to the Nigerian Constitution. Right from now, the basic thing they need to know, just like if you buy a car, you must know basic thing about the health and condition of the car in order for you to maintain it. Otherwise, the car will not last you. So the same thing as human beings. Either the person is 5-year-old, 6-year-old, there are basic things they must know about their vital health, so that they will ensure that they are responsible. Because when they don't know, they begin to carry out actions that are in variance with the balance of the ecosystem. As simple as, destroying things. You see flower and you cut the flower off, simply because you don't know the importance of the flower and how the flower impacts positively your life. So some of these things we need to begin to. So that is how we can not just only protect the health and wellness of our students and the people within our influence, also the environment. Because when human beings are okay, a mentally okay human beings will also maintain a sane environment. But a mentally imbalanced human being will make the environment to also be imbalanced. That is how it is. When you go through the street of Lagos State, you understand better what I'm saying. When guys are high, they distort the whole environment. As they are smoking, they are misbehaving, they are destroying things. I mean, they are just under wrong influences. I mean, so we need to ensure that we teach people. Then also our actions in ensuring the reduction or total elimination of or avoidance of pollution is also very important. In fact, I'm currently working on the research about this, because the level of, I mean, the rate at which the air quality in our country is becoming alarming. Currently, we are rated to be going below 3. We are just on 3.0 something. I mean, we can't afford to drop lower, because if care is not taken, we're going to keep dropping lower. But I thank God, because I mean, government are taking actions now. With the introduction of electric vehicles, we are sure there are public vehicles that will not be emitting carbon into the atmosphere again. But again, we need to now go into other areas of public health, environmental health, to ensure that people are not emitting, people are not incinerating, people are not, I mean, throwing death and waste into the waterways and all of. I mean, these are things that we need to ensure, which are already there. There are actions from government, there are policies, there are plans, there are institutions, there are management system put in place. So how do we ensure that all these things are focused? I mean, they are performing optimally and they are functioning. The management system is functioning, are the things that we need to begin to drive further narratives on. Then about the economic and the socio-economic system of the country. I mean, for as many of us that are familiar with Nigerian GDP, we already know that Nigeria is seriously in great debt. I mean, I just don't want to talk about it, because when you're looking at the GDP of the country with respect to our debt, with respect to our debt ratio, I mean, it's crazy. Honestly, it's crazy. And that talks about the value system of the country. It talks about the socioeconomic value of the system of the country. So what we need to begin to do is to change the orientation by ensuring that the future leaders, we begin to imbibe in them the right value system. I mean, you don't need to steal when you are in government. You don't need to steal when you become, and it starts, I mean, they say charity begins from home. It starts from the little responsibility they take while they're in school. As class reps, as pupils who are more like monitors or the school prefect and all of that. These are responsibilities they've taken in leadership. How do they dispose themselves to ensuring proper value is being projected? When they are committed with finances, how do they behave with it and all of that? I mean, this is where the whole conversation starts from. Because someone who has misbehaved at this level, when they get to a higher level, when he's out of school and transits into new life, would definitely misbehave again. I mean, that is just nature for you. Okay. Then talk about the process of decision making. Also, our own process of decision making in the country is tripartite in nature. We have the judiciary, we have the legislative, and we also have the executive. How do we ensure that all of these arms of our government in our polity, are focused on driving economic, environmental sustainability policies and the issues? The executive, if the three of them are not on the same page, it will result into nothing being achieved. The executive is pushing an agenda and the legislative arm are frustrating it, the judiciary are not in support. At the end of the day, it is not accomplished. So many of our policies will just be at best at policy level without any implementation. Like I keep saying to people, what we lack in Nigeria are not policies, what we lack are implementation. So we need to start talking about implementation strategies and implementation system, which will also underguide the performance and achievement of some of these things that we are discussing on. And of course, it also boils down into the activities that we do in our schools, because part of the implementation plan would definitely include education process, how we need to educate people at all levels, at lower level, at the primary, secondary, tertiary institutions, how we need to educate people, because implementation is easy when people know, because what you don't know, you don't know. But when people know, you even have the support of the entire populace in achieving it. So what are our own responsibilities? What are the responsibilities we can consider for us to achieve environmental sustainability? Now you see that I'm already narrowing it down to environmental sustainability, because when we achieve environmental sustainability, invariably, we're already connecting with the green economy, because as it is now, many of us may not be operating at a high level of decision-making in the green economy. So we focus on environmental sustainability because there are personal actions that can be taken. And what are those personal actions that we can focus on? Number one, as teachers, we can educate all our students, how be it their gender, because we shouldn't be gender sensitive when it comes to education. And that's why one of the SDGs talks about gender equality. I mean, we need to eradicate inequality. We need to promote equality in education. So how do you ensure that not just only the boys, but the girls also are taught on how to be environmental responsible, how to be socially responsible, how to be economically responsible? Okay, then how do we prevent? What are the activities that we need to embrace for us to prevent and reduce waste? Talk about waste management system in our schools. Do we put waste bins around, and have we taught them on how to ensure that they dispose their waste properly? I mean, how do we ensure that even the way we also use materials, I mean, our teaching aids and all of that does not really project wastage? These are some of the activities that we can consider. And people learn quickly, especially at this level, the primary and or even up to tertiary level, they learn quickly through mentoring, through observation. That is the easiest way by which people learn. Because what you learn through observation, what you learn through, mentoring, sticks to you forever. There are many things that I can't remember about what I was taught in any of the subjects while I was in secondary school, but I could remember vividly those lecturers. I could remember those teachers who impacted my life positively because of the way they live their own life. So, ensuring and consciously living a life that our students can emulate is also one of the areas where we can focus our actions on environmental sustainability. We can also ensure that we'll avoid pollution. I don't know if such policies and frameworks are in our schools, whereby we ensure that we don't pollute the air, we don't carry out any activity that will cause pollution, air pollution. Talked about incineration. How do you dispose waste in your school? Do you have incinerator where you burn things, or you have a place, or you have already signed an MOU with a recycling company, where you can take all this waste to be recycled into other productive materials and products that can be reused? So, I mean, these are things that we need to begin to consider and look at. And it starts from our individual lives. In our different homes, we use some of these things. When we begin to practice them in our personal lives, maybe after you finish drinking a bottle of water or sachet of water, how do you dispose it? When you get to school, you'll be able to teach others that this is what you practice, they should practice it, and put it as a policy. Okay, but what you don't practice personally, you can't teach other people, or you can't bring it into a system for people to adopt, because it is not even a norm to you. So we need to start normalizing things personally, take it personal first, and begin to introduce to other systems around us and within our schools. Then we can also have practices on afforestation. I mean, as we are cutting down trees, people are not planting flowers. I mean, you can begin from those little ways. How many of our schools are green, have green environments? Because they also aid easy assimilation, and they also guide the development of the life and the system of a child. When you have an environment that is serene, I can go on and give you several examples. What even developed countries are doing now, when people are under stress, when they go into a green environment, there's a way it appeals to them. And that's one of the importance of how the environment, the ecosystem delivers good health to us. So we need to start planting trees. You need to start having gardens, xeriscape in your school. And that can even form the beginning of embracing some of these practices that we're talking about. I mean, you can also look at the kind of energy you use. I mean, how much you spend in running energy in your school. You can start thinking about partnering with organizations who will support you, with provision of renewable energy like solar power. Some can even supply wind turbine, a small one, from which the student can also learn. Because when you have a wind turbine, there are other elements that you can attach to the wind turbine, that will make them to even learn more about geology and all of that, or about geography. These are some of the things that I believe that we can begin to practice. Lastly, when you look at this particular picture, it speaks about two things. And I will put it in this question that how do we convey these ideas? I mean, the idea on the concept about green economy and environmental sustainability, how do we convey this? This picture talks about two critical things, because pictures, as it were, speaks thousands of words. That is why I love Instagram so much. I spend more time on social media on Instagram than any other. Okay, maybe recently on LinkedIn. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I went on Facebook and Twitter, but picture speaks a lot. When you look at this background, you see that lady flying in the air, so happy, joyous. Two things. Number one, the picture itself speaks volume. It speaks volume, and it narrates a user experience. It narrates a user experience. So the question is, what kind of experience are we defining in our community, in our schools, for people, for our students, and even for parents who are bringing students into our school? There are so many things that we can talk about when we have good experiences. Imagine I come into your school, and from the gate, I could see images of all these things that we are talking about, explaining to people why they need to keep their environment clean, why they need to utilize clean technology, clean renewable energy, and how they need to ensure that there's greenery, there's zero-scape environment. I mean, it's going to speak a lot to people and then redefine their experiences. The environment needs us. That is the truth. And that isn't why the environment every day keep begging us. It's just that they don't have words to speak. But in their own terms, they communicate to us that they need us. We can't abandon the environment and keep acting irresponsibly. And at the same time, in the same vein, we need the environment. So what are you going to do about that? What are you going to do about that? Thank you. So I'm going to stop here. These are my information. You can reach me through email. You can check our website. You can follow me on LinkedIn or follow my organization on LinkedIn. Or you can also give me a call at any point in time. Thank you. Over to you, moderator.
So amazing. Thank you very much, Architect Bolawan, for this wonderful session. I really want to say a big thank you on behalf of the management of ADEF Africa, and also on behalf of the educators that are on this call this evening. And you've indeed put us on a call to action that we need to do everything to conserve resources and also keep the environment clean and more healthier. Right about now, we'll be attending to questions from different participants. I can see 3 people raising their hands up already. And we also have some comments from our participants on YouTube. There was a comment from, I just want to check, from Umar Paki. Management of waste in schools can be done by providing different waste bins, one for paper, Absolutely. One for rubber, and at the end of the term, take them to recycling company that will help the school. I'm going to add to that in advanced countries like Germany, in Nigeria, we only have a single waste bin that we commonly see as green color or blue. Definitely in advanced country, they have separate color for each of these waste bin. The one where you can dispose glass. The green one is the one you can dispose glass. You see the white one, you see the yellow one, you see the blue one. And each of this color has a particular material you have to dispose inside. And I think these are one of the areas which I believe we can also inculcate, just as been suggested by Huma. And there is another comment before we go to the question.
Before you go away from there, in case if there are other questions associated with this particular question, so that it can be answered. When we're talking about waste management, beyond the collection of the waste, because it is it is about an experience, it's about an attitude. We have the attitude of generating waste. So when we're talking about waste management at this level of sustainability, we are even talking about reducing the generation of the waste. Why is our schools not transiting from using paper and all these waste generation methods into reducing or not even producing the waste at all? I mean, we can deploy technologies. Why must we always print exam questions and exam papers when we can create digital boards, when we can use digital tools, I mean, iPads and all of that for people to conduct exams, or even turn some of these exams into an online, I mean, the world is evolving. There was a video I was watching yesterday about a school in China. A lot of parents are even signing up for that program. Is what Chinese government is doing now. Talk about reduction of waste. You know, they're now using AI technology to conduct classes and exams. So parents are just meant to buy the gadgets. You know, China is very good with technology. They've developed those gadgets. Buy the gadgets, all the lessons that will be taught the students are there. So they come to school with the gadget so you don't need to buy any book, nothing. So when we are talking about waste management, we are talking about even the reduction or elimination of the waste, so that there is no waste to even process in the first place, because it's not just about the action of collecting those wastes and take them, because in the process of even taking, there are a lot of malpractices that will happen. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Architect. We'll just go straight to our question. I would like Jeremiah from Kaduna to unmute and ask his question. Jeremiah, are you there? Can you please unmute your mic and ask your question? Or if you are unable to, we can have Rabiu from Ondo State to ask his question.
Thank you. I'm there. I'm ready.
Okay. Let's have Jeremiah first.
Thank you, sir. Yes, we really appreciate the lecture today. I was really inspired and knowledge. I appreciate you, sir, Architect. Now,
thank you.
Based on the last thing I wanted to ask here is, you have answered it based on that, how to reduce the waste management and the rest of things by presenting maybe some of the technology in our education system and the rest. Now, the issue here is about the financing. And you make the example of the Lagos State, whereby they bought about a part of this vehicle is 200 million naira. So now I wonder, how can the transition to a green economy be financed? And what are the most effective financing mechanisms? Thank you, sir. I don't know whether my question has been understood by you. So thank you.
Yes, okay. Clearly understood.
Okay, Architect, may I just confirm from you, would you like to take 2 questions, or you want, because we have like
yes.
7.
Yes, I'll appreciate so that I can take them collectively.
All right, let's have
2 questions per time.
Rabi from Ondo State, you can unmute your mic and make it very brief, please.
Thank you, sir. So my own question is, what is the policy the Nigeria government put in place concerning the issue of using renewable energy? For instance, now the solar, for us to have a solar system in our house is very costly. It's very costly to get the solar panel, to get the battery, and all sorts of things that are needed for all these things. So it's very costly. What is the Nigeria government doing about that? That's one thing. Number 2, concerning the issue of education. So now we are trying to inculcate SDG into the curriculum of the schools. So I think the United Nations, they have the certain percentage. Every government, every nation or country have to put in place for the in education. I think that also should also be focused on. I think they should mandate it for every country also, so that at the end of the day, part of the budget also, each school can also dedicate to SDG program in the various schools. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. So let me clearly respond to the 2. Number 1, talk about, okay, let me start from this last one. Talk about what governments, or policies that are there and all of that. There, like I said, the problem we have in the country are not policies. I mean, I'm even tired of reading policies because all these things, we know them. It's not as if we don't know them. But implementation of policies and monitoring and control are what we lack in the country because of corruption. So the policies are there. Let me shock you with this information, which I think is even common knowledge. You know, I listened to Peter Obi recently talk about the fact that when he was the governor of his state, you know, he won an award as the best performing governor on SDG goals. And what that means was it did not borrow any money. What he did was to assess funds, global funds on green economy for him to execute projects in his states. So I'm telling you categorically, globally, there are funds, like in the built industry where I function. I mentioned it during my presentation, that there are funds for constructing buildings. You know, there are funds for constructing buildings that all you need to do is for you to be able to meet the requirements, showcase to them how you are going to project, you know, green practices in execution of the project. That's it. As simple as even getting certification on green building for it. So once you can do it, then, and usually these green funds comes with the least interest. Some are even zero interest. They come with the least interest. Unfortunately, the reason why our government has not been able to access many of these funds is because we are not operating in that level. We are not operating in the level. So you'll be shocked that by the time our government start implementing all these policies on green economy, they will start seeing investments from international organizations, investment from United Nations. At least all the things we share with you today is more about what United Nations, SPERA, and all these other organizations are doing. So the money is there, but the money will not be released to us except we are already operating within that environment. So that is it. So let's start organizing ourselves the same way we organize ourselves to assess other opportunities. Like you have association of this. So because of that association, they can go and borrow money in bank. It's the same way. People need to begin to organize themselves in order for them to be able to have access to all these grants, loans, and funding from green economy. The other question, I mean, I think I've lost the track about it. The other question concerning, is it about waste management? Please, can you remind me? The first question. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes,
please, I need to be sure if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, I've lost the thought about the first question. Please, can you help me with it?
So the first question, I'm trying to locate the person that asked the first question to just give a recap on it again. That should be, is it Rab? No, it's not Rabiu. Rabiu was the second person that asked the question.
Okay, maybe we should go to another one so that probably we'll be able to, I will start taking note of it. I didn't write it down, so I thought I'll be able to remember. So I'll start taking note of it. So you can take other questions. Probably we'll be able to answer it while answering those questions. Thank you.
So we can have Nafi, you can just unmute your mic and ask your question.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening, madam.
Well done, sir.
Thank you.
It was really an impactful session. Thank you and well done. More power to your elbow. My question is, how can we change the wrong orientation to a reorientation? Because some people believe that when you don't write, we are trying to manage waste now. They are talking about waste management. When we have, some people believe that when you don't write, you easily forget. Using pen and on paper, when you don't write, you don't jot things down, you easily forget. Where we have waste all over, everywhere. People, even students here, they write, they tear their books, throw it anyhow. How can we change such wrong orientation?
Okay, thank you. I've taken note of that.
Okay, Irimaya, you can ask your question now. Irimaya from Kaduna, you can unmute and ask your question.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Please.
Okay. Based on that, what I'm trying to ask about the last question is that you have mentioned the solution, maybe how we can reduce waste management through green economy. Now, the question is, how can the transition to a green economy be financed? Because we have most of the things, since there are I make mention example of Lagos State, whereby a bike is worth 200 million. Then how can the transition to a green economy be financed? And what are the most effective financing mechanisms, if there is? Thank you, sir.
Okay, let me quickly respond to this too. So the first one talks about how can we reorientate students or even ourselves who have this traditional or conventional way of thinking about education, that this is the way that we can learn by writing. I totally agree with you. There are human beings that cannot understand. Their level of comprehension, their level of understanding, their level of assimilation is only through writing. Yes, they may start like that, but they cannot remain like that, or they must not remain like that. Like while we're processing this, because I've been talking too much, chances are that I may forget certain things. That's why I said, let me write down. But that is not the only way I learn. And that is not even the fundamental way by which I learn. Let me shock you with these interesting statistics. Those students in your school, if you get to school on Monday and take statistics of how many of them know how to operate phone, you'll be shocked. They may not have phone, but their parents have phones. And what their parents cannot operate on those phones or even laptops, they already know it and you did not teach them. This is the peculiarity of this generation. So we need to tap into that. Our own generation, quite different. We were not disposed to all this. In fact, the very first computer I used in my life was when I started working. When I had my first job. Not even when I was in university. When I started working and I had money to buy. That was the first computer I have. But now, my kids, each of them, they have not just only iPad, they have their own laptops that they are using. And I have not even taken time to teach them, but they know how to operate all these things. The question is, how did they have this knowledge? It is inherent in their generation. The same way certain things were inherent, like a friend told me, that what was inherent in our own generation is corruption. Because you don't need to teach people how to be corrupt in our own generation and our father's generation. But the same thing must not be the lot of this generation. So we must support them. And one of the ways we support them is to create that enabling environment. Those students you think does not understand technology, when you present it to them, you'll be shocked on the adoption. What they're just waiting for is for you to present it. Recently, I was in University of Lagos, to have an engagement with some lecturers and students. You know the feedback I got from the lecturers? They said these students are not willing to learn again, that they are practically begging them to be learning. Because they are tired of the traditional way of learning. So lecturer come, give them notes, printed manual, go and read. They are disinterested. And what did I do when I went there? I went there with computer. I went them with slides. I went them to show without giving them any notes, nothing. And the feedback about the learning outcome was fantastic. And they were expecting that we'll come more and more, that we should even replace their lecturers and come and be teaching them. How do you want to explain that? So there has to be a shift in our performance first. Leave those students. Let's change the process of learning first, and let's see whether it will be adopted, acceptable or not. And about change of orientation. Orientation is simply changed when we refuse to do things the way things are normally done. We talk about thinking outside the box. We are too conventional. We are too associated with tradition. Oh, this is how it has always been, 6332 or whatever it is. Oh, it must. You'll be shocked the way other developed economies are doing their things. And unfortunately, they would develop and innovate new ways, come here to come and solve our own problem. Look at what China is doing. Most of the guys that are doing all the projects in Nigeria that are Chinese, they are not even educated as much as many of us are professing to be educated. Many of them only went to technical schools. Some of them didn't even go to school at all. It's in prison, they taught them all these technical things because they have a system that is working and technology. And they are coming here to come and solve our own problem. This is exactly what I'm saying. So let's, first of all, begin to put the process in place. You will see that they will change their thinking, which I want to assure you they already have. It's just because we have not created a system for them to show that they know and they have the system. Then, about the issue of funding, I will still repeat what I said. We are not creating new streams of funding. There are already existing streams of funding. Internationally, they are existing. You have green economy. This concept of green economy is not Nigerian owned. It is already happening in all other countries. Why Nigeria is saying by 2060, 2070, that's when we transit fully into green policy. Other countries have given themselves target of 2030. Europe by 2030, 2035. Already about 4 of them are already transiting as we are talking now. If you go to Norway, you go to Sweden, you go to Netherlands, these are countries that are already on about 80-85% green energy, renewable energy. They are going totally zero by 2030 in 7 years, and they mean it. And all these electric vehicles, they're already using it there. You can go online and check. They're already using it there. So there will be proliferation of fossil fuel cars in Nigeria. It will become like pure water very soon. Because Nigeria, as usual, or Africa as usual, will become a dumping ground for all these old archaic traditions. So we need to stop it, and Nigeria is not a dumping ground. Let's also begin to transit and change our behaviors and our ways of thinking, and then we can now assess those funds, because we can't even, as it is now, we can't even meet some parameters. And lastly, about the funding, Nigeria also have a set apart green economy funds. If you go online, you will see it. It's there. Nigeria has green economy funds, but a lot of companies have not been able to meet up with it because that is not the nature of our economy at the moment. It's not the nature of our economy at the moment. At best, we are still practicing hybrid economic system in green economy. We are not fully there. So we need to start encouraging people. I mean, all these small and medium scale, micro, small and medium scale of enterprises, not even at industrial level, not at the enterprise level, the small, the mini, the micro, all these barbers, the tailors, all these little businesses, they need to start implementing all these ideas that we are talking about. I mean, what's the capacity of the energy that is required by a tailor or a barber to use? Why can't you use solar? And if you don't have money, you can, once you have your business case tailored in that manner, you can approach any of the financing banks, because we have some banks. I know of Sterling Bank, I know of Standard Chartered Bank, I know of Fidelity Bank. These banks, they have policies, Access Bank, they have policies of supporting green economic enterprises, businesses, SMEs, who need funds to implement. Even the office of the vice president under the Rural Education Agency, REA, they have funding that they need, that they can use to support communities. I've executed a project in Ogun State through REA before. So I know all these things. So information is very key. Thank you. Let me stop there.
Information is very key. Awesome, awesome. And I know that many of our educators here are open to have those information. And I can, just like it says, I can assure you that if your innovation are intact and your solution are scalable, you can definitely get funding for it. Both locally, regionally, and internationally. Okay, for those who have asked their question, please, we appreciate you lower your hands. And I'll also say that the tracking and evaluation form has been filled, has been sent. Please, let's ensure we fill that before we leave, before the end of today's session. All right, can we have Ali Bitinga? Kindly unmute your mic and ask your question. Please, let's try as much as possible to make it very brief.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Do we know where you're joining from?
I'm joining from Yobe State, Nigeria.
Okay.
Thank you for this wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
My question is on this green economy. I listened attentively when you are explaining this green economy. I said, look at the country as we are now. How feasible, how practicable is it in this country now? The issue of green economy. I mean, the technology, the political will, the awareness. Are we actually ready for this green economy now? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Olabamiji, please, can you unmute your mic and ask your question? Mr. Olabamiji.
Hello. Okay, I can hear you. I want to really thank you for the wonderful presentation. Even listening, I feel like crying because of the situation of things in this country. But mine is in form of request, because listening, I believe if others have the privilege to at least also partake in this lecture, it will go a long way sanitizing things in the country. And even more schools will not buy into this idea with or without sponsor from anyone. So I don't know if there are other platforms whereby the whole public is being sensitized concerning its SDGs first. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. The second question you asked, I think the organizers will be able to answer that. But outside of SDSN, yes, I mean, from the introduction, you could easily tell that I came from a community, you know. So the question about whether there are other platforms, I mean, definitely there are. There are communities where this conversation are consistently happening, and that's where, you know, I practice. So, I mean, I'm not just a conventional architect, I'm a green building architect. So I have other people within the community of green architects who are also practicing. We will not be many compared to the total number of architects in Nigeria, but we are there and we are doing a little. I mean, I know within my profile how many green buildings I've executed in Nigeria. You know, I mean, how many smart homes I've done. And currently, I don't even do any other kind of projects. I mean, any construction I'm doing that is not green, I don't do. So clients will go to someone else if they can't abide by my times. So, I mean, you have that community to assure you. About whether we are ready for the adoption and the implementation, like I said, so that we don't go away with that notion. Policy is not the problem. Agenda or plan is not the problem of Nigeria. We have always had plans. We have always had policy. A new one was just signed by Buhari just this week. So policy and agenda is not the problem. Is the attitude on implementation. And that's where the issue of projects comes in, the way we manage projects, because agenda policies has to be translated into execution, of which are knowledge areas and project management. So how do we ensure proper implementation of all these promises? Because policies and agenda are best promises. So how do we translate ideas, all these policies, into reality is the problem of Nigeria. Unfortunately, we have not gotten it right, very right in terms of leadership, because Nigeria governance system is still based on democracy. So, I mean, all our performances, all our actions are governed through democracy. So if we keep selecting or electing wrong set of leaders who are not willing to bring about this change and transformation that we are seeing in other countries, the adoption, the acceptance, and even the conduct of on this implementation that we are seeing in other countries that everybody wants to run, if those countries are not implementing, none of us want to run there. Imagine if you go to Norway, you go to UK, and it's the same condition about Nigeria that you see there, people will run back. But things are different there because they have different patterns of behavior. They have leaders who are not like our own leader. You know, so the question is, how do we change that narrative? I mean, last election was a very good opportunity or chance for us to have changed it. Whether we have done that or not in the next few months or in the next few years will tell in terms of who we have elected, our current president-elect, whether he has that same disposition or is a different kind of politician. Okay, and it's not too late. Another 4 years is coming. You know, so let's get it right. I mean, that's the least any Nigerian, any citizen who is an electorate can do. Elect a leader that you believe in, will implement all these things. The second thing is even the little ones you can do. Let's even forget about the high places. I mean, people quickly, when it comes to solution provision, we always look at what government needs to do. We don't think about what we ourselves can do. I've reeled out little actions as teachers, as individuals that we need to start taking. Like in a community where I live, everybody knew it is what I preach, it is what I hold on to, it is what I do. You don't incinerate around me. You dare not even burn anything in my community. Because I will harass you, I will report it to government. I know all the policies. Lagos State has environmental protection policy, EPA. They have policy of 2021, 2022. I have them. So that you don't know is not an excuse. I will give you a copy, you will read, and you'll see all the fines are there. So, I mean, it will help govern people's behavior. That is the least we can do as an individual. And also you teaching your student about this information you've heard are also ways by which we can start curtailing people, because you never can tell. That girl, that boy in your class, in the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, may turn around to become the president of Nigeria. And you have not inculcated all this information in their life. So they will not be, I even mentioned president, they might even become the Senate president. They might become the House of Rep members who will make all these policies and guide the performance. They will be in the committee that will implement these things, or the governor of the state. So if you don't teach them now, they will not grow with it. They will not know it. And the world has changed. It's just that we don't know it. Very few people who have opportunity to travel outside the country are the ones that have seen that the world has changed. And it has not happened in Nigeria. COVID happened a year after is when it happened in Nigeria. The same thing, all these things have changed. When you go to Norway from the airport, if you go to Dubai from the airport, you will know that the world has changed. Because all these things we are talking about is what they're already implementing in their countries.
Okay,
So
architect, I would just like to cut in at this point, as we have just like 7 minutes more to end the call, and it must not exceed that 7 minutes before the management sanctions us. Yeah, thank you very much. It's been an engaging session indeed, and we are so glad to have these feedbacks and responses from each and every one. And thank you to our facilitator for the wonderful session we've had today. Right about now, I would just like to make it open, because it's also very important for us to have a brief information before we end the week. And before we end the week, before we go there, I can still see like 6 hands up. But those 6 hands, please, I will appreciate you drop your question in the comment section. Your questions are going to be forwarded to Architect Bolao, and he's going to respond to each and every of those questions, and which we are going to share back on the community. And also, if you have a question that you really want him to address, or an area of concern that you really want him to address, please feel free to drop your question in the comment section, and the program manager are going to pick it up from there. And also our colleagues from other countries, yeah, you also feel free to, I know that we've been having a lot of Nigerians asking questions, and I can see a lot of people from Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya, and different countries, yeah. So also great, it's also always great to have you on the call. You can also share a question. Then also, before you leave, Architect, I would also like to ask which of the platform, okay, you already shared it, your phone number, you already shared your Gmail address for them to reach out to you. So please, will you like to further connect with Architect Bolao? You can also connect with him on his LinkedIn. That's the LinkedIn address, Bolao Oyelaki, and also on his email address, bolaoyelaki@eyainitiative.org. And the presentation slide is going to be shared on the learning resource. After today's session, you are going to have the presentation slide for yesterday and today on the learning resource folder, which we all have the backend link. Once again, on behalf of the leadership of ADEF Africa, we sincerely want to appreciate you, Architect Bolao, for this wonderful session you led today. We are so glad to have you on this call, leading the aspect of green economy and environmental sustainability. And we can assure you that these are things we are going back to our various schools to also share the information and learnings with our students. Yeah, right about now, I would just like to entertain basic questions from our participants as regards the other activities of the program. But before then, I will also appreciate you just use the comment section to drop your area of concern, or if you have a question. But the link, I can see some people saying the link is not active. The link is very active. The very first question is from Nafi. Our question is, when is our next meeting? Our next meeting is next week, Friday, 4 p.m. next week, Friday, and also 4 p.m. Saturday, next week, Saturday. So regarding the WhatsApp group, we are so proud that some people have gone ahead to create some interstate or country WhatsApp group. Yeah, that's fine. But however, there is a process to that, because this is what we are supposed to, what we is in pipeline, and it's meant to be introduced to you during the 3rd week of the program. And that includes the interstate WhatsApp community and also the LinkedIn community. I already shared this LinkedIn information from week one of this program. And please, if you don't have a LinkedIn account, go and create one. Yeah, it's very important. These are great platforms that you can get to connect with professionals. You can get to connect with experts. People that you can't easily knock on the door of their office. LinkedIn is an opportunity for you to get access to them, and you interact and relate with them. And the other, it was earlier communicated by the person in charge of communication for this project, that the WhatsApp communities which has been created so far, some of it is going to be wrecked, and there are some that are going to disapprove for some reason, while some are going to remain and retained. But however, okay, can you send the LinkedIn again? Sorry, we have not shared the LinkedIn link. That's going to be the 3rd week of the program. However, for those who don't have any state or do not belong to any state, be assured that you are going to have your state group. We are going to share that with you. Instead of next week, we are going to share that with you today, and you'll be able to get to engage with others. And this is not the only quote which we are having for the Teach4SDGs, by the grace of God, as designed by the management. We are still going to be having 2 more series this year, before the end of this year. So the upcoming 2 series are also going to join this same community. So it's very important, and this is what we are going to keep and sustain over the year, and in this decade of action. We all have a role to play in that. And regarding the SDG activation, which is the phase 2 of the project, and it's in line to we getting to engage the students, setting up clubs, and I already mentioned that more information are going to be shared on that by next week. And please, it's very important we all attend, we all participate in this session. I don't know if there are any other questions from me, or maybe area you want me to clarify. And to the best of my knowledge or the information I have from the management, we'll be able to provide that. So if there are any, please, you can signify, but if there is none, we just have 1 minute remaining to end today's workshop. I would always like to keep to time. All right, Mr. Mark, you can unmute your mic and ask your question. Okay, you can unmute your mic. Hello. Okay, can we have to call?
Hello, good evening.
Okay. Okay.
Hello. Yeah. Now, sir, my own is in the area of data. I think just like most of us, and these 2 hours.
Okay, if it's to the aspect of data, sir, I will just refer you back to the communication that was shared during earlier today. That has been responded to, and I will not like to speak regarding that again. And yes, please just go and read it, and it's very important. But I said something yesterday that I don't want to repeat that, please. It's already 6 p.m. I like to keep to time, and definitely, but if there are very sensitive information that you want us to attend to, I believe we will definitely provide information about that. Please, I would just appreciate, because it's already over 2 hours, we can share our questions on the WhatsApp community, and I can assure you to be attended to. Thank you, everyone, for this wonderful session. Thank you for joining today. We look forward to having you next week. And to our wonderful facilitator, Active Bola Oyelaki, we say a big thank you on behalf of the management of EDEV Africa, and wish you a more productive weekend.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
you.